Boo!
So you're going to kick things off. Let me start getting some music queued up.
The name of this story is Unknown Encounter. This is a story that occurred back in 2018 when me and my family lived in Fort Orchard, Washington State. I've always been a skeptic of the paranormal, but this story kind of changed my stance on it. To understand the story, you must visualize the layout of our house. Our house was on a small clearing right on the edge of Banner National Forest. We had a wraparound balcony with windows that fed into the kitchen, living room, and master bedroom. If you looked out any of those windows, you were looking directly onto the balcony. There's also a set of stairs that led onto the balcony from the lower patio near the basement. Lastly, our living room had a set of glass French doors in between the two windows. At the time, we only had one thin curtain covering the glass. It was the first 2 weeks staying there when everything went down. Everyone went to bed around 10 or 11. Around 2 in the morning, my mom had woken up to the sound of scratching and footsteps on the balcony right outside of the window. She peeled back the curtains on the window and saw nothing, but kept hearing scampering sounds that got progressively faster and more aggressive. She then woke up my dad, and they both went into the living room to get a better view from the doors. My mom, afraid of what was out there, got down on her hands and knees and slowly peered through the curtain, only to be confronted with 2 sets of eyes. They didn't move, even when she screamed and jumped back. After about 5 minutes, they heard them calmly walk around the balcony and down the stairs. They convinced themselves it was just deer or something, since we did live on a national forest. When my mom told me about this the next morning, I remembered we had cameras that the previous owners had left. So I decided to take a look. What I saw was arguably one of the strangest things I have ever seen. 2 dogs, I think they were pit bulls, had come up onto the balcony. However, the way they moved was so unsettling, it's almost as if they didn't know how to walk on 4 legs, like they were used to being bipedal. They both, at the same time, stared into the glass, completely unfazed by all the noise my parents had just made. They remained there, even after my parents had went back to bed, just fixed on looking into the living room. Then, I kid you not, at the exact same time, they both turned their heads directly towards the camera in the corner, almost as if they knew someone would be watching it. It ran to the camera in complete sync with one another. I mean, they literally mimicked each other's movements so well, it was like a copy and paste of a video of the same dog running. I've never ever seen dogs act like that before. Even their eyes were eerie to look at, since they were staring right into the camera lens the entire time. Then they simply walked down the stairs and into the woods. As far as I knew, both our neighbors didn't have pit bulls. I was left so creeped out by the footage. They seriously acted like animals in disguise. That doesn't make any sense. I kick myself every day for not taking that footage with me when we moved. I'm even unsettled writing the story now. Anyway, thanks for reading.
I think I can speak for both of us when I say you're welcome.
You're welcome, yeah.
That's pretty creepy. I'm not going to lie. I think the eyes part is the creepy part.
What I liked about this was it kind of felt almost like a skinwalker story, right? Because they mentioned that it felt like the animals didn't walk like they always run all 4s. They kind of, he mentioned that at first they almost kind of stumbled up. And then the idea of them both turning and looking up at the camera in unison, that is pretty creepy.
Yeah, it is rather disturbingly creepy.
I have a couple dogs now. And I have another dog. Since the last time we spoke, I have another one. They don't move in unison. When they're moving together, they're kind of like, loping along, but they're not together.
It's not perfectly,
He described this as like almost like a copy and paste video of the 2 of them running together, which makes it seem otherworldly.
Yeah.
And he mentioned he was in Washington State. Now, just, far north for a skinwalker. But there are other things out there that are similar stories that I've read elsewhere.
They said it was moving like by, what'd you say?
He said that it didn't look like it was used to walking all fours, like it had used to be bipedal, like it used to walk on two legs, but it was
Yeah, kind of. Sorry to cut you off. It reminded me of the like Nightcrawler sort of thing. How you always see them, or like I'm thinking of the right thing, right? Where they're awkward with the legs.
yeah, the crawler, which
Yeah.
we
So,
talked
but
about.
it was like that, but it was like on four now. Okay.
So it wasn't moving properly, and that to me is a strange thing. I want to know more about this. I haven't been able to find out anything else in the area yet. I tried to look up more, but I hadn't found out more in the area. But it sounds like a similar creature to the crawler or a skinwalker, but different breed. Like this thing is not necessarily violent. And someone mentioned that it actually kind of reminds them of a different type of spirit that is more of a curious spirit, not something, an evil entity. Like it was just there to observe someone new to the area. And so that's also kind of creepy and it's all right. But that could be what it was. Someone mentioned that it was likely a spirit of the forest coming to check in on new tenants on the edge of this, national park.
It's definitely creepy regardless. It didn't seem like it was like evil or something. I guess you
Right.
don't know, but you're like, it just seemed like a curious spirit.
And that's what it comes across as. Especially the fact that it kind of just stared at the camera like it was wondering what that was about and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
You put yourself in the shoes of this person. What do you think you would do?
Myself, well, I would make sure I kept the cameras going all the time. But they didn't mention ever seeing it again until they had moved because they had moved away without having encountered this thing. So it seems like whatever it was left them alone. So for me, it would have come down to like keep observing and trying to find out more. But they never saw it again, which makes it even more kind of spooky in that sense. Like they never saw these two dogs again. They
Yeah.
just disappeared.
Calling them dogs seems weird to me. Doesn't sound too. I, I guess it kind of does, but there's just like you said, the glaring differences of how they're moving. Unless it's some ghost dog, or something. I don't. What do we go to the chat here? I would move away. Somebody said.
They did eventually move,
They did
but
say they eventually moved, and they. Man, it's just like something so crazy happened. You'd like think you'd really want to keep that footage.
yeah, I could see though. There's a lot of times when there's something you want to keep when you're moving, you just end up forgetting.
Yeah.
So like things get forgotten, they get left behind. I can see that happening. Then just like an SD card that will go missing at the drop of a hat. I've lost probably 50.
50 SD card. Yeah. Especially when we're like micro. Remember those days?
I have a bunch of micro SD cards that I have bought for different projects, and a lot of them I have lost.
You lost them all. You're just you lack responsibility for an SD card. No, they are small. I don't know. It just seems like to me it'd be something I'd be like, man, this is so crazy. I would have shared it in some platform where I could probably go back and get it. Wait, how long ago did they say this was?
2018, so
Yeah.
7 years ago. What was it?
Anybody else would be putting that on Facebook and stuff, like
Yeah.
this is what I saw. It was crazy. They said they're trying to get they say they had sent it out to anybody else trying to get answers or not.
No, they were just talking about it. They thought they wanted to share their story finally after some time.
I think if that happened to me, I would share out like you did with the Fox thing that I don't know if those trail cameras ever got set up, but you went to that group and you're like, hey, what does it sound like to you? I think that's what I would have done.
I'm guessing for them it was less imperative. Like maybe they didn't feel super threatened. They were just more found inquisitive. Like I found it reading it. So I think maybe in the heat of the moment, they were more like, oh, you know what? Maybe that wasn't something that meant us danger. Like there are times when you encounter something and it doesn't feel dangerous, and maybe
Right.
you just kind of just like blow it off. And maybe that's what they did. But then they're like later on, maybe thinking, maybe I should probably tell people about this and see what they think.
What do you think about this though? This comment at there's no the MySpace wasn't a thing then, man.
It still exists.
Yeah, but it wasn't like it was done like, I don't know, 2011 or 10. It kind of just vanished off the
Yeah.
face of the earth.
They're using Friendster.
Friendster. That was a cool story. It's a good story to start off with because it kind of sets the scene well for other scary stories. Because like didn't happen to you, so it's kind of hard to like fully say like I would have done this or that or this
Yeah.
was like it's hard to say. So
Jeff Townsend Media. CG, good night.
and the question is, do I stay here? Will you be back? Are you gonna come back? Will you be back? Are you coming back?